Good morning, my Teaserking family. Hope everybody's well. I just started having my avocado, so of course I'm hacking. We're going to talk college football today and a little bit more on what's going on, and then we'll probably touch football pro because there's not a lot of college, but we'll still do pro tomorrow. The biggest question I have is Georgia playing? They've already apparently clinched a playoff spot. And do they, do they have anything to play for, or are they not going to play? This is the question. But LSU's quarterback's questionable with an ankle, so we will see. I did 2 tests yesterday. I went to a gas station and a grocery store. And I asked them, I says, are you guys all set for the reset? They looked at me like I was out of my mind. They had no clue. I says, well, my card, what's going to happen? Is my card going to work? They looked at me like, what are you talking about? So you can't just, I don't know, maybe there's different resets, or maybe it's just at a high level and not at our level. This I'm not sure of. They will revalue the dollar with the new currency, but I'm not sure how that works. I'm not sure when that works. I do believe it'll be a Sunday. They'll say the banks are closed, and Monday we've got new currency. I don't think that'll happen. Yeah, I don't think that'll happen before 2023. I've got to check my bank and see if I got my transfer from my IRA, and then I'll go get that money out, and then we'll see what we want to do with it. But that's where I'm like, okay, I got to get the money home before they change currencies on me and I lose it. So that's my biggest concern. So let's have some stress. Outside of that, I don't know. I'll go to the gold store today. Well, I'm going to go to the gold store after I go to the bank. So I don't know if the money hit. Usually it takes a day or two to transfer from E-Trade into your bank. And I did it Tuesday night. So it should be there today. If not, it'll be there tomorrow. And then we'll take a sizable amount into the safe. Again, it's protection. Again, you're buying gold and silver for 2 reasons. One, you got to get out of dollars, and 2, it's going to go up. And I hear everybody going, well, it's not an investment, it's money. True, but in this case, it's a double. It is an investment from the standpoint of the value of the gold and silver is going to go up because it's going to get to real physical value. So in that sense, no, it's not an investment, but it's getting to its true value is where we're all going to do very well with when it goes from 1,800 to 50,000, or, roughly around there. Then we'll be like, oh, okay. But yes, it's not an investment. It's like buying euros. Although you can invest in FX and dollars and go from there. But that's not the case here. This is more just going up to where it should be after 50 years of suppression since 1971. So now it's going to go up is really not, it's just where it should be. And that's the benefit. It's not gonna go to 1,800 when it goes to physical, because that's not the physical price of it. Again, it's a scam where the COMEX is saying this is the price, but not the demand's way outseating it. It never goes up with the demand. That's the problem. That's why it's fake. All right, college football. So let's go into the spreads. And let's see what's going on. So the biggest question is Georgia. And I guess we'll know by the line if they're playing or not. So we start off with this, I guess it's a makeup game. I guess it's a makeup game. So it's Buffalo 11.5, 55.5 against Akron hasn't moved. UTSA 8.5, 69.5. That's up from 67. That should be a very high scoring game. And then these are Friday's games. And then USC 2.5, 66.5, which hasn't moved. I think it moved from 64 and then 67, and then it doesn't move. It's weird. USC. So that's Friday's action. Are those three games. Now, the Akron game is not the MAC championship. The North Texas UTSA is, and then of course, the Utah USC is the Pac-10 championship. TCU 2.5, 61.5. That line hasn't moved. I guess you'll get movement probably Friday night, Saturday morning. Toledo 1.5. And 54.5. Now there is injuries there. I believe the Ohio quarterback Rourke's out. I believe the Toledo quarterback is out. We'll double check that. We'll go through the injuries. Troy 8.5, 48.5 against Coastal Carolina without McCall. So their backup hasn't looked too good. So this should be an under game because Troy with the very good defense. Tulane 3.5, 56.5 against UCF. Line hasn't moved. Boise 3.5, 54.5. Like Fresno State there. Georgia 18 and 50.5. The line hasn't moved. The line was apparently the opening line 16.5 up to 18. So the money's going on Georgia. I really can't believe Georgia's not going to play 2 years in a row. They want the 1 seed. I just, how do you go out and say, well, we're just going to lay down again because we're in the playoff? I don't know about that. So we'll see. Clemson 7.5, 63.5 to North Carr. Michigan 16.5, 52.5. One thing about Michigan, Blake Corum, the running back's in a cast. He's definitely out. Quarterback plays, but he sucks. And then it's just the backup running backs going in. Now, Purdue, what are they doing there? And they're not a good defense, so Michigan should have their way with them. So let's go into the injuries. Then we'll go into the games. So real quickly on injuries, it looks like Aaron Rodgers is going to play with the ribs. Fields is still questionable with his shoulder. And that's actually a good over game. If both quarterbacks played, it's a good over game because the Bears have no defense. And Fields seems to be able to, put up 30 points. But we'll see. That line started to go up while Rodgers is playing. So it went from Green Bay 3 to Green Bay 4, and then 42 to 44. I would think if Fields plays, it goes up to 46. We will see. All right, so I'm just going to look at the injuries. Akron has the quarterback, Irons, questionable, but they've already been using the backup. Not a big deal. Let's go. Buffalo. Buffalo is a wide receiver questionable and a running back questionable. But what does questionable mean? Is they're going to play? This is their last home game. I guarantee they play. Okay, Boise, as long as we're in the B's, they have a safety questionable. They have a wide receiver questionable, a tight end questionable, another wide receiver questionable. And they're all out. They're all questionable with undisclosed. So what the hell does that mean? They got a linebacker out for the season, and that's it. So a lot of, a safety and 2 wide receivers and a tight end for Boise. So a little bit of, they've already switched quarterbacks. The new quarterback's pretty good. We'll see. So that's just the injuries. So again, we're just looking at injuries. UCF, they're playing Tulane. A tight end's out with an ankle. and a wide receiver's out with a leg. So some minor players, minor injuries. So we'll see. Is it critical? I think the quarterback's the critical injury. Clemson, wide receiver out for the year with the shoulder, wide receiver questionable with the knee, cornerback out for season with the groin, defensive end out for the season with the foot, and another defensive end out undisclosed earlier in the year. So they've lost two. Now they've had a great defense supposedly, but it hasn't really shown up. Two defensive ends are out, a cornerback is out, and a wide receiver is out. I like this game over because of all that, and they've been playing high-scoring games. So Clemson still with the quarterback who wants to run. North Carolina, very explosive, as we know. Coastal Carolina, McCall's out, which we know, with the foot. Let's see. Fresno State, no injuries. Hayner's playing, so we like that. They're pretty healthy. Georgia, the offensive lineman is out till mid-December. A tight end is questionable. And then the rest have already been hurt. A linebacker, DB, a linebacker. Excuse me. I must be allergic to this table or something. That's the first time I sneezed all day. I've been taking those drops. I feel much better. A little bit of hacking, but I'll take it all 3 times today, and hopefully that'll cure it. So they've lost a linebacker, a DB, and a linebacker, and now an old lineman, and a tight end, but not the big tight end's questionable. So a little bit of injuries. We know Georgia's got a stack full of defense. So I think they're okay there. Nothing big. The big tight end, I can't remember his name, is the All-American first-round draft pick. He's playing, so that's all we care about. Let's see. Kansas State. Quarterback Martinez is questionable. We don't want him. We want Howard. Howard's the better quarterback. Martinez is the guy from Nebraska, throws too many interceptions. That's about it. Otherwise, they lost a linebacker in October, so they've already been playing very good without him. So Martinez, we hope, doesn't play. We want Howard, and that'll be better for us. LSU. So LSU, safety out mid-December. Cornerbacks out with the spine. Cornerbacks questionable with the concussion. The quarterback, Daniels, the running kind of quarterback, questionable with an ankle. So maybe that's why the line is. So we'll see what happens with him. Running back, Williams, probable with the knee. Another running back, Goodwin's out for the season. Wide receiver out for the season. So you have basically a safety and a cornerback for sure are out. Another cornerback with a concussion probably out. And your quarterback's got a hurt ankle who runs. So how effective is he going to be? How effective is he going to be against Georgia's defense anyway? He runs more than he passes, and we saw what they did with Tennessee's quarterback. So again, if they play, it'll be very low scoring. Michigan, very light. They tight end is out now. Why don't they have the running back on here, Corum? This is where I get kind of upset at this cover site. So it's giving you Michigan's injuries, but where's Corum? Which I know he's in a cast because I hear it on the radio when I'm driving around here. He's out. I mean, he ain't playing. Or if you think his cast is going to get better by Saturday, maybe he's in a walking cast and he's going to try to play this. Maybe that's what it is, but he still should be listed as questionable. Otherwise, they're just listing the guys that are out, a tight end, and then just guys that have been out all for a long time. So Michigan's fairly healthy except for the running back. but they don't list either running back. So we're going to try on Yahoo also to see. That's what's I got to go to Yahoo or Google and just go, is, Blake, whatever, playing, and then see if I get an answer. So it's kind of weird. Let's see. North Carolina. They got a running back Hood questionable and a linebacker, and 2 linebackers out. So I'm wondering if this is only showing me the out guys, although I don't know. They show the questionables. So North Carolina is pretty healthy, which is good. We saw K-State. We got to go to TCU. See, it's weird. Oklahoma and Oklahoma State aren't playing, or Oregon State. That's the problem. These teams deserve to be in the playoff. They're good freaking teams. USC, they're playing against Utah. So running back Dye is out. And again, they're just giving me the out guys. DB out, old lineman out, DB out. These guys have been out for a while. So again, I'm not seeing anybody new. So anybody that played against Notre Dame, they got hurt. They're not showing them as questionable. So, okay. We're going to go into where the line is. Texas. TCU. Wide receiver questionable. So I am getting some questionables. And that's it. The other wide receiver is out in September. So only one wide receiver. TCU's been very healthy this year. And with their coach, they definitely score a lot. They played Kansas State 38-28 earlier. We had the game. I think we had TCU or we had the game over. No, I think I had TCU because I was a little worried about TCU winning, and then they took the lead, and they came on and 38-28 them. So it was a 66. So you should get the same flavor. But K-State has been playing very good. It's going to be hard to beat them. Utah, tight end in September out. So as far as I know, Rising's playing, the tight end's playing, the running back's playing. Everybody's going to be playing. And the thing that's screwy is even if they win, they don't necessarily get into the playoffs. I mean, it's ridiculous. What's the point of this game? I don't understand. So that's it. Let me go into the games. So let's go into, I don't care about Akron. So let's go into USC, Utah, and let's see if it gives a little more flavor on the injuries. USC injury. Quarterback, backup, Dye, who we know has got a knee injury. Allen, no, it's about the same. Some October injuries, a little bit more, but these are October. Utah with nothing. Now, this normally, Scores and Odds doesn't give you the depth of the injuries that the other would. Let's go to Kansas State, TCU. Nothing from Kansas State, TCU, the wide receivers. So that's the same. Ohio, Toledo. Let's take a look at that. And Ohio, Rourke will sit out the rest of the season. So he's their good quarterback. He's out. And a running back's out, but he's been out for a while. No injuries for Toledo. They have the quarterback questionable, but I think they've already kind of brought in the backup. Coastal Carolina, we know with McCall's out. Let's look at UCF Tulane. I didn't think I saw a lot here as far as injuries. Tulane, a running back and a backup quarterback. And UCF, a wide receiver's out and the tight end's out, but they've been out for a while. See, when they've been out for a while, the team's already replaced them and adjusted, and they're still doing good, then it's not a big deal. Usually the quarterback's the big deal. Fresno State, Boise. I'm not expecting anybody for Fresno. Boise, DB. Tight end, we've talked about it. There's a wide receiver questionable. I think we talked about tight end questionable, DB questionable, and another wide receiver questionable, and a linebacker. So they've got more injuries and none for Fresno State. The question is, so if you see wide receiver out, does it matter? Is it Jerry Rice or is it, Herbie Rice? So that's the other thing is you got to see the injury. Is it meaningful or not? They used to highlight if it was a starter, but I don't know where I saw that. And that was a couple of years ago. Georgia, no injuries, really? LSU, cornerback out, cornerback questionable with the concussion, running back. Jalen Daniels is battling an ankle sprain. It's unclear if he will. I love how they announce their injury. It's unclear if he will dress for the SEC championship game. This is on 11/27. We're now up to 12-1. Running back. So a lot more injuries for LSU, including their quarterback. Clemson, North Carolina. Nothing on Clemson. Well, so here we know there's injuries, but they're not saying. Well, let's see if they say on Purdue, Michigan, if Corum's out. I know he's in a cast. Now, maybe it's a walking cast and he'll play. No, the same guys that have been out. Purdue, defensive tackles questionable, running backs questionable, wide receivers out, cornerbacks out. Safety out, wide receiver out. So, and Purdue's not really all that good anyway. So what do we do with this? Okay, so we're going to do it the same way we've always done it. Again, the only question is Georgia, where LSU's quarterback is questionable with an ankle, and Georgia, they're going to be in the playoff, but if they lose, they're not going to be the 1 seed. That's going to be a problem for them. Well, I don't know. We'll see. This is interesting. Kansas State, if they beat TCU, should be in the playoff, but they won't be. Utah, if they beat USC, should be in the playoff. So that's my whole problem. Why aren't these playoff games? So the winner of this game should be in the playoff. This should be a playoff game, and it's ridiculous what they're doing. So let's go from the top. Buffalo, 11.5, 55 against Akron. Both teams have over defenses. Buffalo, pretty explosive. Akron, it's weird. They're kind of, their stats say they're an under team, but they have been playing well with the new quarterback. They've been scoring more. So I like this game over 11.5. Again, watch the weather. It's cold here in Michigan. I don't know if there's snow there or not. Over of 55. So I think over is the way to play this game. But again, it's a MAC game. It doesn't mean anything. It's Buffalo's last thing. I don't know what that means, but does Buffalo try harder? Senior night, probably. So I think you can probably take Buffalo minus the 5.5 also, or the over if you're really inclined to go here. But again, the MAC's so confusing. There's other games on Friday we can play. So it's kind of like an over, but a watch. Toledo, Ohio. Well, let's stick with Friday. North Texas, UTSA. We got over versus over. Frank Harris, North Texas quarterback, very strong. They don't throw a lot of interceptions. Over under climbed to 69.5. UTSA 8.5. And the game's in the Jerry Dome. It's in Arlington. So there's no home field, but it should be fast, and of course you won't have a weather issue. I like the game over. North Texas lights it up. UTSA lights it up and has a good quarterback. Played a big game at UAB where they beat them and they put up a 40. So this game's going to be very high scoring. I like the over in the game. Here's where I don't want to fuck around with, well, geez, UTSA should win. North Texas is explosive. You don't know what, you can get backdoored. Do you lay 2.5? Neither team has the defense to say they're going to win. So you end up where it's 8.5, and that's what you like. So I think this game goes over. I think that's the best way to play it. Maybe UT say minus 2.5, but North Texas and 14.5 could be a good play. I don't know enough about North Texas other than they score a bunch and they're a 35-35 team against UTSA, who's a 35-35 team. I'm expecting a 35-35 game, which puts us over. Utah USC 2.5. I don't know where this game's at. I wonder if it gives me location. No, it's just going to say it's the championship game. Pac-12 championship game on Fox, but it doesn't tell me where. It would on one site, but it doesn't really matter. It's not at USC, so it's going to be a neutral site game. I think they play them at Stanford, but I don't know if they do every year or just once in a while. You'd think they'd play it in the Rose Bowl, but I don't know. But anyway, USA laying 2.5, over under 66.5. Utah with a little better defense, but not much. Both these teams against the other high-scoring teams have played high-scoring games. Utah had we don't know what happened in the Oregon game, how bad banged up with Bo Nix was. So it was a lower scoring game. USC, as we saw against Notre Dame, they lit up Notre Dame. They'll light up Utah. Utah will light up USC. They scored 87 in the first game, and there's no reason to think they won't score 87 in this game. I like this game over. 60 is that means 30-30. And how you're not keeping SC out, but SC, they don't Utah, I'm not betting against Rising. If I had to bet the game, I would take Utah on 8.5. But the best play is the over because they're both explosive. And, they got decent defenses, but you're not stopping SC and you're not stopping Utah. So this is going to be another high-scoring game. The expected outcome, which puts it at 60.5, which puts us over. So got to play this game over, absolutely. Okay, let's go to Saturday now. So those are your 3 Fridays. The Akron Buffalo, we don't really care about. North Texas, UTSA, 2 explosive teams. Utah, USC, 2 explosive teams. So they're both overs. Then we come to Saturday, Toledo, Ohio, the MAC championship. You got the Ohio quarterback out. The Toledo quarterback, I think you got the backup. Toledo's laying 1.5 and 54.5. So these are both over teams with the quarterback, and that's where the expected outcome changes. This is why we look at injuries. Right? We look at injuries because it affects the outcome. Excuse me while I eat. Let's see if I cough now. If I don't cough, I'm cured. So what you have is 2 explosive teams without their quarterbacks, or at least Ohio doesn't have their quarterback. The question is their backup any good? Good question. Toledo, is their backup any good? So can we get an over out of the game? So we go back to Yahoo, or scores and odds. So why do I go here? So if I go into here and I click on the team like this, I get their schedule and I can answer the question I just asked. So if I look at the games, so let's look at the last few. Western beat Toledo 20-14. Not cured yet. Bowling Green 42-35. Toledo beats a weak Ball State 28-21. So let's look at the last three games. Toledo beats Ball State, who's not that good. They lose to Bowling Green, who's not that good, and they lose to Western, who's really not that good. And I noticed the points. They scored 14 on Western, who's got a terrible defense, and they scored 35 on Bowling Green and 28 there. So they're not the over team without the quarterback. So now we can go back to – now we go into Ohio, and basically we want to see their last two games without their quarterback, maybe the last three. Now, they beat Bowling Green 38-14. They beat Ball State 32-18. Toledo lost one of them. They beat Miami of Ohio, and they beat Buffalo. So even without Rourke, because I don't think he just got hurt, they've been scoring in the 30s. So does that make the over good? Well, Toledo's not scoring and losing. This makes Ohio the better team, which actually makes this play Ohio because they're still scoring with their backup quarterback, which makes it a system, which is better. And Toledo's got to be a weak favorite here. They're laying 1.5. They lose in the Ball State and Western Michigan, so they're not showing me anything. Ohio's still winning, still scoring in the 30s. So even if Toledo wins, how much are they going to score? I'm going to get 30 points from Ohio because Toledo doesn't really have a defense. So therefore, the backup must be doing okay. And I think Toledo's a weak favorite now. I think I have the better team, Ohio, getting too much disrespect for the quarterback being out. I don't think he just got hurt. I know he did get hurt, but I don't think he just got hurt. There's one other thing. So when you're in here and you're looking at the games, if you click on the details, so here's the details, it'll show you the box score. So let's look at the details of the Bowling Green game. And go to Ohio. And, okay, C. Harris is the quarterback, 10 of 21, 200 yards, 1 touchdown, no interceptions. They ran – Bangira ran for 100 yards, so they're more running, but they're still scoring a lot. And a little receiver. So that's the beauty of this. So you come in here and you come to the box score and you can see Harris is the quarterback, but he didn't hurt him. So they're okay. If we go into Toledo's, so let's see their box score against Western. So Finn is their normal quarterback, goes 5 for 11. He basically sucks. He's more of a running quarterback, as you can see. Well, not really. Maybe he's hurt, but he ran 2 times for -8. So those are sacks. They don't really have a running back. Boone for 70 yards. And then Gleason comes in 13 of 38 for 200 yards, 1 touch, and 2 interceptions. Finn throws 2 interceptions. A lot of turnovers on Toledo. So that's where you're really looking, going, well, Finn's not doing too good. This Gleason, Finn's normally a running quarterback, is obviously injured, can't really run that well. Ohio does well with their backup. So I like Ohio here getting 7.5. I mean, to me, they should be favored. They're clearly the better team. They're still putting up 30 points a game. So even if Toledo wins, they got to put up a 40, which they ain't going to do. And Toledo's losing to Western Michigan and Bowling Green or Ball State. So I like Ohio here. This is a weird spread. I'm getting points. And I already know my quarterback's out, and I've already showed you the backup and the running. So I like Ohio in 7.5 here. LSU, Georgia, 18.5, 50.5. You've got LSU quarterback, sprained ankle. I'm sure he'll play. Unless he just can't walk on it, but then he'd be doubtful or out, which we'll find out. Georgia's pretty healthy. Is Georgia going to lay down 2 years in a row is the question. And the only answer is to watch the line. This is 8. I remember Alabama was like a 7-point favorite. We bet the game under because it's Georgia. And then Alabama beat them. And I remember telling the people in Alabama when I was working there that in the championship game, I says Georgia laid down in the other game. They're not going to lay down here. They're gonna beat Alabama. They're all crying because they're all Alabama people. And I don't think that Georgia laid down was the answer I got. And then of course Georgia didn't lay down and killed them in the championship game. So the question is, are they going to do the same? I don't know. I don't get that feeling because do they have something to play for? Well, they have the number 1 spot. They have the SEC championship, which they didn't win. All they basically have won is the SEC East. They haven't won the SEC. I think they want to win that. I don't think they want LSU to win it. I don't know the hatred between Georgia and LSU, but I don't think they want it. And I don't think LSU is that strong of a team. They gave up 100 points to A&M. So I look at Georgia. I mean, if the quarterback's out, maybe I lay the 18, but again, that means they got to try and play the whole game. But I like the game under because LSU's got a decent defense. Georgia never really runs it up anyway. And you got 56 in a Georgia game. Now, I can't lock this game because I don't – if they were playing, yes. But I can't lock the game because this is a very good under because LSU's got an under defense as well. And if their quarterback doesn't play, LSU's not going to score, which I don't think they'll score a lot on Georgia if the quarterback does play. And how well is he going to play with the hurt ankle? So Georgia, are they going to, sit players in the fourth quarter? I don't know. I don't think they'll sit the defense. So again, it's Georgia under. It's just what you do. It's with them. I think you just go under with it. Fresno State, Boise. I like Boise 3.5, 54.5. They're both A teams. Hayner's back. They're playing well. They got a good defense, probably a better defense than Boise. I like Fresno in the 9.5 with Hayner. Like, good luck blowing them out with Hayner. That's where you get into the statistics with Hayner. Hayner gets injured in the USC game, and now Hayner's back. And that's why you can't just look at the stats. You've got to look at the Hayner stats. So he's actually played like 7 or 8 games, I guess, this year. I don't know where that came from because he played the first few and then got hurt in the USC game. And then he just came back like 2 weeks ago. But he's playing well. They're playing strong. I got to like them as a dog. I'm getting 9.5. It's a dog game, both A teams. So this is a tease the dog. Over or under with Hayner, probably an over. Boise's been scoring a lot more lately. But now here's where I like Hayner in the 9.5. I don't think Boise can blow them out. Therefore, I think this is a tight game, championship game. So therefore, I see this being a very close game. Does it get over? Well, both teams have pretty good defenses, but the over is 54. So yeah, I could see over 48 with Hayner, but I like the 9.5 better. So this is how you differentiate. Do I want the team or do I want the over-under? And you really are looking for the best synopsis to get to the expected outcome. And my expected outcome is Fresno State can win the game. I don't know if it'll be high or low scoring as much as I know I got Hayner. If I'm down 10 at the end, he's going to throw it. He's going to get me down 3. More than likely we'll be in the lead. And so that's all we care for. Let's root for Fresno plus 9.5. So that's much more where I'm looking. Clemson, North Carr. Clemson 7.5, 63.5. Clemson's defense hasn't really showed me a lot. Like I thought, like they were going to be like the Georgia defense. And they keep with the quarterback who tends to run and they score points. North Carolina, we know, is fairly explosive. They played Miami like 28-26-1. Then they played Duke and they won 36-33 or something like that. So they play a 60-point with Duke. I just think I honestly think North Carolina is going to win the game, but you never know. Clemson again played Notre Dame and got killed. Uglia Buglia is horrible. Hopefully they go to the backup, but Clemson has got no chance. But again, it was a 31-30 game with South Carolina. I think that's what you're looking at is probably a upper 50 to upper 60 point game here. North Carolina, we know, is explosive. They got an excellent quarterback in May, far better than the Clemson quarterback. So again, it's the coach killing his own team for some reason, but I like the over here. So take the over, maybe North Carolina in 13, but I think it's going to be high scoring is a better play. We talked North Texas, we talked Utah. Now we get the K-State TCU. TCU lane 2.5. 61 is the over-under. K-State statistically is an A team, but we've seen them against TCU. They gave up 38. We've seen them give up bigger points, but they're very good defensively, and they run the ball well. TCU 2.5. I like the over because it's TCU's explosive. K-State's been explosive. So even though they run, they score a lot. First game, 38-28 is a 66. This is 61. This is over 56. This is a low over, so I like it because TCU is explosive. And what did TCU do last week? They put up 62 on Iowa State. That's all I can say. I mean, you do that to Iowa State, you can do that on anybody. So, the game's in Fort Worth or Arlington, Jerry Dome. So I really like the over. If I had to play a game, I don't know. I would probably lean towards K-State and 8.5, but I really don't want to bet against TCU. If TCU is a dog, this would be easy. But laying 2.5, I think that's a light line. Maybe TCU and 3.5 would be good. But again, the overs, it's 61, it's 55. I got to like the over here. I'm not coughing. I'm so excited. Troy, 8.5, 48.5. Coastal Carolina, quarterback Salt McCall, one of the top 2 or 3 quarterbacks in the country. Troy, we know, is an under team. Spread's 8.5. My spread's 10. Hasn't really moved. Over under 48.5. I think this is an under game. Troy doesn't score a lot normally. Coastal Carolina, now they don't have a defense, right? So this could be a Troy minus 2.5 play. What did Troy do last week? I know they were supposed to be under, went over. Troy. They beat Arkansas State 48-19, which is what I'm trying to get to is I think they win. Do they keep it under? So this is definitely a Troy play, I believe, because Coastal Carolina just doesn't have McCall. They don't have an offense. Troy has the best defense. Troy should be able to move on Coastal Carolina. Coastal Carolina probably is not going to move on Troy, so that makes it, it's only 8.5. So I like Troy minus 2.5. I like the under 2, but I don't see how Troy doesn't win by a field goal with the quarterback out as much as they could do what they did last week and put up a 50, and then you're screwed on your under. So we'll check that out. UCF Tulane 3.5, 56.5. Again, these are 2 A teams playing. I like Tulane beat Cincinnati last week. Now, if we go by that score, 27-24, I think that's what you get here. UCF does not have the defense Cincinnati does. So Tulane put up 27 on them. UCF probably, if Cincinnati puts up 24, I think they put up. So I think it's a 50-point game. You got 2 A teams. But in these championship games, they tend to go for it. They tend to score more. So it's two A teams, which normally I would play under. But the way Tulane scored on Cincinnati like that, UCF pounded somebody. What did UCF do? I don't think they played anybody good. But they like to run with Plumlee, the Mississippi quarterback. They run with him all the time. They beat South Florida 46-39. So their defense didn't show up. You're giving up 39. So I like this game over. I think Tulane can score a lot on them. I think UCF is going to score. I can see this game being in the 60s easy, and it's a 56. So I can see it being a 50.5 without a problem here. Again, UCF statistically is an under defense, but when you look at them, South Florida got 39 on you. South Florida does not have a good team. They can score, but they're not a Z team. But they're if they can score on them, Tulane should be able. Tulane's got a really good, solid team all over. So I wouldn't really want to bet against Tulane here, but I think I'm leaning towards the over. That is only 50. And that leads us to the Big Ten. Purdue, Michigan. Michigan 16.5, 52.5. Blake Corum is probably out. He's in a cast. If he plays, he's going to play what? Like he did last week, two plays. Look for Michigan to just bully Purdue. They have the better defense. Look for some defensive scores. I got to go with Michigan. I don't know what I'm going to get point-wise. Michigan's got a very good defense. Does Purdue score on them? Michigan, all right, with a backup running back. Didn't look, the backup came in good against Ohio State. You put up 40 on Ohio State. I think they put up 40 here. Probably goes over 46. 52 is a small number. Or 16.5, probably 10. There's no way Michigan can lose this game. If they beat Ohio State, Purdue isn't even very good, right? I don't know how they got into it. Just everybody beating up each other, Illinois and Iowa. Illinois is a much better team than Purdue. They played Michigan to a 19-17. That Michigan had to kick a field goal at the end. Purdue, I don't see. Especially it's in Indianapolis. It's not at Purdue, which is West Lafayette, or at Michigan. I think it's a huge mismatch. Michigan's the A team, Purdue's an even team. So Michigan will score, and Purdue, I don't know that they'll light up Michigan. Ohio State didn't, so I don't see that. I just think Michigan does what they did last year against Iowa, puts up a 44-10 game or something. So do I want to fuck with the over-under, or do I want to fuck with Michigan? I think I want to fuck with Michigan minus 10.5. I think that's a low enough spread, even without the running back. They got other running backs. It's Michigan. And it looks like the line's just dominating, and the quarterback can do a little, and then the defense is just going to really hold them down. So I think Michigan minus 10.5. Now, here's where I want the running back. Last week, I knew Corum was out, so I took Ohio State. This week, I wish I had Corum, so you can't always wish for the overtime. So what do I want to give as the free pick? We're going to go again, USC over as the free pick. USC, Utah should be an explosive game, 66. You need 60. You need 30-30, which we'll probably have by halftime. You can't stop USC, and good luck stopping Rising. It was 44-43. Rising beat them at the end with the 2-point, and I think Utah really wants to win this game because they want to kind of make a point like, well, why aren't we in the playoff? Screw you, and here they go. So I like that game free. And let's go Fresno State, the other free game. I like Hader there. So I'll give you two. Fresno State getting the 9.5, and Utah USC over. Very strong play there. I have two locks in this mess, but I'm not telling you. You'll have to figure it out for yourself. No, so I got 2 locks there. Pretty much I just figured out every game. I wasn't sure Toledo, Ohio, but I am. And then Troy, I think I am. And UCF, Tulane, I think I am. So that's why I tend to look. You've got to look deeper into it, right? So first you just look at the game. My line's Tulane -7. And it appears they're both under defenses until you get in and see, wait a minute, they gave up 39 to South Florida, and Tulane played a 27-24 game with Cincinnati, who's not that explosive. Their backup quarterback played. So, I think you're going to get in the 30s here, and it's a 50. So you don't even need in the 30s. You need 27-24, you got a winner. And I can't imagine this game with Plumlee. See, Plumlee's the wild card. Can they run on Tulane? UCF is very explosive. So that's what makes it an over game. They could easily score 40 on Tulane, and Tulane can turn right around and put up a 40 on UCF without a defense. So we definitely like this game over. And then Michigan, this is for if they lose, they're not in the playoff, right? And actually, I think Ohio State gets in the playoff, which is the most confusing thing this playoff. I was talking to an Ohio State person yesterday, and she goes, I says, what the hell happened last week? She says, you watch, Alabama will get in the playoff. And she says, it's an SEC playoff system. I says, yeah, I know. I don't know how they'll jump Ohio State, though, but if the wrong thing, if Kansas State wins and Purdue wins, then it's Ohio State and Alabama in the playoff. We don't know how. We don't know why. We don't want that. But TCU should be in the playoff regardless. They played in the hardest league, and nobody wants to give them credit. I heard some idiot on the radio going, well, look who they played, though. None of them are top 10 teams or whatever. Well, because you rank them by win-loss record instead of who they're playing. So Alabama doesn't play anybody, and they still lost 2 games. And you got them ranked ahead of like a Big 12 team who played Oklahoma, Texas, Baylor, TCU, Texas Tech, Kansas State, Kansas, and T-Tech. You got 8 strong teams in the Big 12. You have no out. You have no Z team. So, of course, you're going to lose a game or 2. So, that's ridiculous to make that comment. And the same thing in the Pac-10. You had USC, UCLA, and Utah all in the same conference with Arizona, Arizona State, and here's Oregon and Washington. Of course, you're going to have 2 losses, but look at who you're playing. It's just insane, this whole let's rank them based on, they're undefeated, so they're the best team. No, fuck no. What, are you kidding me? Oh, my God. So that's college. So we'll review. We like Ohio against Toledo. Georgia, we believe the under. We hope they play. We think they're playing, but we're not sure. Fresno State, take the points. Clemson, North Carolina, go over. UTSA, North Texas, go over. Utah, USC, go over. K-State, TCU, go over. Troy, Coastal Carolina, take Troy. Tulane, UCF, take over. And Michigan, Purdue, go to Michigan. It's funny. One of the guys I do the 10-team teaser with, he shows me the list. It was all overs and unders last week. It was hysterical. And they all won but the damn Iowa State game. Oh, my God. It just pissed me off. But, that's the problem when you're playing it. You're trying to eliminate that Iowa State under or the Ohio State lie. I mean, how do you eliminate those 2? They're very good games. They're very good picks. Obviously, you got to make them before the game. Even the Ohio State game was 24-20 entering the 4th quarter. They easily could have won. Iowa State, there's nothing you can do, but I don't know why TCU went off like that. I mean, they put up 60 points. There must have been some pick sixes going on there. So that's college. Questions, comments, let me know. Like I said, 2 locks, a lot of good picks, a lot of strong picks there. And then we got the pros. So let's go through let's go through the line. We know Rodgers is probably playing with the rib injury. He's a tough son of a bitch because he's got the thumb already. He hurts his rib clearly. You can see him grimace. And he doesn't have a problem. He's out there with bad ribs. He's out there. All right, let's go. Buffalo 3.5 and 43.5, down from 44 and down from 4.5 or 4. So the spread's going down. We'll have to check the injury there. Minnesota 3, 44.5 to the Jets, Jets. Baltimore 8.5, 39.5. All right, that hasn't moved. Pittsburgh now is a 1.5 point favorite, 42.5, down from 43.5. So Atlanta opens -1.5. I'm thinking of taking Pitt as the dog. Pitt wins on Monday night. Now Pitt's the favorite. Now I'm thinking about taking Atlanta as the dog. I can't see Pitt being a road favorite, and Atlanta's been very good. So we'll have to see. Philly 4.5, 44.5. That line keeps dropping. It was 6.5, 44.5, 44.5. Detroit now is a 1, so that game's gone. Detroit -1, Jacksonville -1.5, Detroit -1 again. 51.5. That over hasn't changed. Washington 2.5 up from 1.5 and 40.5 from 41. I'm noticing a lot of these totals are halves, which doesn't make any sense. Cleveland 7, 46.5. That line hasn't changed. Now, I guess Watson's going to quarter. So why is this change? Well, I had Cleveland -3. So with Watson, it's gone to 7 and then over 46. With Houston, you don't know what the hell you're getting. Green Bay, Chicago. Green Bay's now went from 3 to 4 to 5.5, 43.5 from 44. So that means Fields probably still not playing, which would make Green Bay the 5.5 point favorite with Rodgers and no Fields. That makes perfect sense. Seattle 7.5 up from 4 and 40.5. Stafford's out, I believe. Whatchamacallit, Aaron Donald's out. That's the big injury there. So Seattle should be able to actually put up some points here. Well, they did last week, but I don't see what the Rams, they got that Armstrong or whatever his name is from Virginia, who sucked at Virginia, but he's mobile. So we gotta have a suck mobile quarterback than a good one. Unbelievable. So 7.5, 40.5 Seattle. So let me write that so I can read it. 40.5. Interesting. Frisco 3.5, 46.5. Line hasn't moved. Not sure what I'm doing there yet. San Diego 150.5 against Oakland. That's a good over bet. Neither team has a defense. KC 2.5, 52.5. And guess who's back? Jamar Chase. Mid-December. It's December 1, and he's back. So it's a big game. So I'm glad he's back. And 2.5. I like Cincinnati in this game with Chase and the over. Dallas 10.5, 43.5, down from 44. What do you do with Prescott? You're going to get your 2 interceptions. Is it going to be enough? Again, 10.5. You can't do that in the pros. Tampa 3.5, 40.5. Line hasn't moved. I don't even know what to do with this. I mean, who's that? So let's look tonight about injuries. Why did the line go from 4.5 to 3.5 if we get it? Now, New England's owned, or Buffalo's owned them except for that rainy game. Buffalo's won 4 of the last 5, and that one they lost 14-10 in the rainstorm. Von Miller, we know, is out. Micah Hyde, we know, is out. Anybody new causing this line to go down? No, not really. New England. I can't even name players on New England. Oh, Cody Davis is out, the strong safety. Never heard of him. Jabril Peppers from Michigan is always out. See, he sat out the bowl game. This guy's always injured. That's what I tell you. These guys that are afraid to play and get hurt, don't draft them. They're not real football players. They're just looking for excuses to be on the injured list. No balls, no passion. So it's a bunch of nobodies, but there are a lot of injuries. So I like New England tonight getting 2.5. I mean, or I'm sorry. Oh, maybe I should. I like Buffalo tonight getting the 2.5, and I like the game under 40. Good God, 43.5. So that's under 49.5. Now I don't know. I mean, you think New England's an under team. Both these teams are under teams, supposedly. If we look at what happened last week, Buffalo plays Detroit 28-25, a 53, a more explosive team. And then we look at New England, 33-20. They give up 33 to Minnesota. So I like Buffalo in 2.5 here, unless there's a weather issue that we don't know about. And I'm not checking weather right now, but I'll check weather in a minute. So Buffalo getting 2.5 against this, they couldn't handle Minnesota. I don't care that the game's at home, and it's really not a Sunday, Thursday. They both played Thursday, so it's really a week away. It's Thursday. And so I like Buffalo here, 2.5 all day. Well, I can go through a little. Well, I got to retrend the Pitt Atlanta game because, going against Atlanta at home is 37-7. I had them against as a home dog, as a home favorite, but now they're a home dog, so I got to relook at it. But they're not very good. But Pitt is a much better road dog than road favorite. A lot of these teams have trouble as road favorites. I think Atlanta in 7.5 I didn't see any major injuries there. So I probably like the dog in the game. Washington and the Giants, 2.5 and 40.5. I kind of like it under. Giants, they're starting to fall apart. Washington showing a good defense. This should be a low-scoring affair, just based on what they show, although the Giants are reeling. No real trends. The trend here, Green Bay, Chicago, 5.5. The trend is Chicago, 12-2 is a home dog. Bet against Green Bay, 12-2 is a road favorite. This is a Chicago trend. However, they don't have a quarterback. Trevor Siemian is not. I'm not betting on him. Rodgers playing with the hurt ribs. I don't even know why, but I guess they think they need the game. So Green Bay laying 5.5, 43.5. If it's Fields, it's a lock over. Without Fields, so I think we got to wait a little bit. If Fields does play, this is a lock over because it's only 43.5. And the way Fields plays, he puts up 30 by himself. But without Fields, as I said, they don't do anything. What was the score last week? They lost to the Jets, 31-10. Now, don't fuck with the Jets. They got an excellent defense. So Chicago, Green Bay, yeah. So I think Chicago's going to have trouble scoring, although Green Bay doesn't have that great of a defense. This is an over game with Fields. That's the sure play. Hard to play Green Bay as a road favorite. They lost at Detroit. It's hard to play Chicago without a quarterback. So I guess you can wait for Fields. So if he plays, then jump on the over. If he doesn't, I guess you got to take Green Bay. Or you go under. Maybe you go under, but Green Bay's defense Chicago's defense is really weak. And we fucked around with the under in the game against the Jets, which was a 31-10, which we hung on by our teeth to get that win. So I don't know. I got to think about it a little more. Maybe it's an under at 49.5 with the Bears not scoring, but the Bears will probably score a little bit more because Green Bay's defense is bad. So could be a Green Bay play with Rodgers, although I don't like them as a road favorite. The Jets and mini -3, 44.5. Like the Jets, the Jets. Jets playing very well. Good defense. White looked good. Minnesota, is okay. What I would think would be a high-scoring game, not with the Jets defense. I like the Jets in 9 here all day. Cleveland, Houston, you got Watson, who hasn't played in a year and a half. He's going to be shaky. I don't even know if he can play all 4 quarters because he doesn't have any stamina. Running track doesn't give you stamina to play 4 quarters in an NFL game. So Houston, we know, is bad. Maybe you go over. Both teams have bad defenses. Houston switched to Kyle Allen. Let's see, what did that do last week? Well, they got 15 on Miami late. Miami probably just laid down, and then they had to lose by 15. As I said, the very rare to get a blowout in the only time you see blowouts in the NFL is by the dog. So, I could see Atlanta blowing out Pitt as a 1.5-point dog before I see Pitt blowing out Atlanta, or maybe the Jets blow out Minnesota as the dog. That's where you get your blowouts. You don't necessarily get your blowouts by the favorites. The favorites know better. You can win by 3, but you can't cover. So I don't know. Cleveland, Houston, maybe an over, maybe Cleveland -1. But again, the guy hasn't played in 2 years. He's not going to be sharp. Cleveland doesn't have a defense. So I'm leaning a little more towards the over. We'll see what Houston can come up with, but they're such a bad team. I guess the play would be Cleveland -1, and hopefully he plays well, but it's a hard one. Tennessee, Philly 4.5 now, 44.5. I like Tennessee in 10.5 here. Tennessee's a mean team, good defense. They score enough, stop Henry. Again, they played the Mahomes and Rodgers and played well. This is the running quarterback. I don't know if they played Lamar. I'll have to check the Tennessee schedule, but I like Tennessee in the 10.5. Over under 44.5. Probably an under game because of the good defenses here. Tennessee plays these under games, so probably that. Detroit, Jacksonville. Detroit 51.5. The only way you can play this now, play against Jacksonville as a road dog, is 18-3. That leads you on to Detroit. So this is where I don't just tease the dog. Jacksonville's terrible on the road. I get Detroit in 5. Detroit's playing decent. They played Buffalo strong. Jacksonville, I don't know what they are. How the hell they beat Baltimore is a mystery. I like the over because it's Detroit, and they'll score their 30 or mid-20s, and they'll give up mid-20s. This will probably come down to the end. It'll be a very close game. Because, again, Detroit doesn't beat you by more than 7 once in a blue moon, and they did it a few weeks ago. So I think it'll be a close game. I think Detroit scores on Jacksonville. Their defense doesn't scare me. Lawrence certainly doesn't scare me. It does scare me taking the game over with Trevor Lawrence. So we'll see. But I think the way to go is Detroit +5, actually. They're not, remember, they're an over team. They're not a Z team. That's the ranking. So everybody thought Detroit's a Z team. They suck, but not this year. They're an over team. So they can score. Their defense is kind of weak. Lawrence, he's terrible. So you don't know what you're getting out of Jacksonville. Which team shows up, the one that lost at home to Houston or the one that beat Baltimore? This is the problem. And to answer the question, why is the pros so hard? I think it's because the pros, you're betting on third stringers, right? So first of all, you don't have preseason. So nobody plays. So the first 3 weeks, I don't know what the fuck that is. Then you got the bye. Then the first 2 weeks, the guys don't have their legs with them. So what happens? You pull your hamstrings, and MCLs and ACLs go, you got sprained ankles because you're not used to playing 4 quarters of football. So you got a lot of injuries. So I think what's been happening is, so the first 2 weeks of preseason, you get all the injuries, then you get into the third stringers are playing. And that's the problem. That's why it's so inconsistent. You're betting on you're betting on preseason games, which we hate betting on. But because it's regular season, we don't realize it's preseason. And that's why you're like, what happened to Tampa Bay? Well, you're playing their third stringers because their defense gets injured. And now where we're used to Tampa Bay with the strong defense, but half of them, both 2 linebackers are out, the secondary, I think Winfield's out. So you're losing a lot of talent in your defense. It ain't Tom Brady, and then he's lost his receivers, but they're back. You'd think they'd score more, but they have the worst coach in the league. So you got all those things going against them. That makes it hard, but that's what the problem is. Denver, Baltimore, 8.5, 39.5. Denver always plays low-scoring games because they can't score. The receivers are always out. Their defense is strong. Baltimore, who the hell knows what this team is? How do you lose to Jackson? So, okay, you take the lead late, 27-20. You let Trevor Lawrence drive the length of the field and hit the 2-point conversion on you? Are you fucking kidding me? Trevor Lawrence drives the field and gets the winning touchdown against you. And you want me to believe Baltimore is any good or has a good defense? I can't believe that. So the 39.5, so I can never take Baltimore at all. Then I got to go to 39.5 in a Denver game, so it's 45. So I think you go under in the game. Can you trust Baltimore and minus 2.5? Not after what happened last week. Can I trust Denver? I can't trust Denver to score. So I think I can trust Denver to keep the game low scoring and not score. So it should be an under game. Miami and the Niners. This is a very interesting game. This is over against under. The Niners B team, great defense. Miami over team, not great defense. Over under 46.5. I kind of am actually liking Miami 9.5, even though normally I got to play the defense. But in this situation, I think Miami can score on them. I think I think the Niners will play their defensive game. I think they can score on Miami, but it's 46.5. So I don't know if I like over or under at this point. Are you going to go over or under 52? And they could do both. Because when I think Miami's offense, we'll score more than 40. Plus, the Niners have somewhat of an offense now with whatchamacallit there, the running back. And then Frisco with the killer defense could keep the game low scoring and under 52. So I'm really indecisive in this game as far as which way I want to go. I'll figure it out. But right now, I just figured out the college. So this is just the first imprint out of the pros. No major injuries. Well, the running back's a little bit banged up. What's his name? Oh, God, what's his name? Anyway, but he's questionable. I'm sure he'll play. I want to say McConkey, but that isn't it. I don't know. Anyway, so we'll see, but I could go anywhere. I could take Miami. I could go over. I could go under. They all make sense here. Seattle 7.5, 40.5 against the Rams without Kupp, without Aaron Donald, without Stafford. So they're glad they won the Super Bowl last year because they won't win it again for 25, 30 years because they traded all their draft picks to win it once. Then everybody gets hurt, so Stafford's gone. He's pulling his Lions. Oh, I'm hurt. I'm out. I think Frisco has a field day scoring. Just a second. I think Frisco has a field day scoring, or Seattle, without Aaron Donald. I mean, good luck stopping him anyway. Over under 40. Now, you had Armstrong, the backup from Virginia, who he actually got some point. He put up a whole 10 on Kansas City. So you're not going to get a lot. So I really like Seattle minus the 1.5. They're very explosive. They have to win. It's a must-win game for Seattle. So this is a division game. So I like Seattle's a good road favorite, 8-2. We'll go through the trends in a minute. So I like Seattle minus 1.5 here. Oakland, San Diego -1. What do we know? Play against San Diego, 38-6. Play against them as a road favorite, 10-1. Oakland has no defense. So I kind of like Oakland because just bet against San Diego every week and you win every week. It's unbelievable. And I like the over 50-44. Again, it should be an explosive game. Both teams can score. As we locked them both in the other games, Oakland was playing Seattle and San Diego was playing Arizona. We locked both games over and we won both games. So this should also be an over. KC 2.5, 52.5 against Cincinnati. Cincinnati at home with Jamar Chase playing. That shows you how much they want it, that Jamar Chase is actually playing. Right? He's got a hurt hip, doesn't need to play. He's playing. It's a big game. I don't see Cincinnati blowing out Joe Burrow. So I really like Cincinnati here. Also, the over of 52.5 with Chase. I can't see this game being very low scoring. What do we need? 52. We tease it to 46. Is 26-20. And I don't see how we don't get there. So let's say 26-21. How are we not going to get there? Since neither team's got that strong of a defense. You've got two superstar quarterbacks, and since he's got the better receiver now with Chase. So I just see it like that. I just see over also 46.5. I can't imagine that. So I'll decide, but I like Cincy as the dog here. They're 9-2 as a home dog. Indy, Dallas 10.5, 43.5. Are you kidding me? My line's 7. Indy looks much better with back to Ryan and Taylor, and they played okay. They lost to Pitt, but they're okay. They got a decent deal. Prescott's going to give you 2 interceptions, right? Now he might score, but I can't lay 4.5 in the NFL. It's not legal. That leaves me with an under, which could be a good play. But again, you don't know what Prescott's going to do offensively. So if we look at 28-20 with the Giants is a 48 against them. So this makes this an over, actually, because that's 37. That's such a low number. If they went to 48 with the Giants, now actually it was a 41 because it was 28-13, and the refs handed the Giants the touchdown at the end so they would cover because they were getting 10.5 there. So look for something similar here. You get the 36-point game with Dallas. The defense, it's a good defense sometimes, not against Green Bay. So we'll see what happens. But initially, I'm leaning under in the game because both teams have pretty strong defenses. And Indy doesn't really have much of an offense. Dallas, erratic, too many interceptions. That's a tough one. New Orleans, Tampa 3.5. Now, this is a must-win game for both. Even though they both stink, this is to win the division, right? So Tampa's got 5 wins. New Orleans got 4 wins. And somebody's got to win the division and make the playoffs. So, see, if they're in college, they wouldn't make the playoffs because they've got more than 1 loss. Tampa at home, 3.5. What do you do with this thing? New Orleans, I don't know who they are. They get shut out by Frisco, in which they fumbled twice at the goal line. Could have won 14-13 or at least lost 16-14. So they're not that bad to move on the Niners last week. I can't see Tampa shutting them down. They're just too many injuries on their defense. Too bad at coaching. So I'm kind of leaning a little to New Orleans in 9.5. But I'm not sure. It's such a garbage game. Now, if we look at the teams to go against, so in a teaser, the best teams to bet against are LA, New Orleans, Atlanta, Denver, and San Diego. So that would mean you would play Seattle, and you would play Oakland, and you would play Pitt, and you would play Baltimore, and you would play Tampa Bay. Now, when I tell you those are the worst teams, these are 90% trends for 2 years. So if we go this year and last year, 90% of the time, I mean, the Rams I think are 0. They're like 10-0 against this year. So that should be an easy Seattle, take it. There you go. LA hasn't covered, and without Stafford and without Aaron Donald, they ain't going to cover this one either. And Seattle can score. Seattle needs the game. So now let's get into who needs the game. Again, trying to get the expected outcome. So, excuse me. I'm so happy I'm not coughing like I did. Those pills are working good, or that drops. All right, Buffalo, New England, playoff game, but they both need it for different reasons. Buffalo wants to win the division and tied with Miami. New England's just hunting for a wild card, but still they both need the game. Pitt and Atlanta needs it only because Tampa's so bad that Atlanta needs the game. To win the division, not for a wild card, but to win the division. And so Atlanta has a purpose. Washington and the Giants, playoff game. They're both probably not catching Philly and Dallas. So this is for the second wild card. So Washington's been playing very well. Not crazy about them being 2.5-point favorites, but we will see. The Jets in Minnesota is a playoff game. The Jets are in a dogfight for the wild card. They're a couple games behind Buffalo and Miami. And Minnesota's in the lead in theirs, but they're trying to catch Philly for the overall. So this is a playoff game. Tennessee, Philly, this is a playoff game. Tennessee's winning their division. Need to win. Philly's up in their division, needing to stay ahead of Minnesota for the 1 seed. But all of a sudden, Dallas is close behind. So that forces Philly to keep winning, which is what we like. Baltimore, Denver. Baltimore needs the game. They're tied with Cincinnati, I believe. Or Cincinnati might be a game ahead of them now that they played that wonderful fourth quarter against Jacksonville. But it's okay. I had 2.5 in Baltimore, so I was happy they went for the 2-point conversion. Then I knew I won. So Baltimore needs it. Miami Frisco is a playoff game. Both teams are first place in their league. Both teams need it. Seattle needs it because they're tied with, or they're a game behind Frisco, so they have to win it. San Diego is trying to get a wild card, so they need it. Oakland's too far back. KC, Cincinnati, this is a playoff game. KC still wants it for the 1 seed. Cincinnati they're fighting Baltimore, so this is a must-win. Dallas, Indy, Dallas needs it, trying to catch Philly and be a wild card. And New Orleans, Tampa, again, it's a playoff game for them because they're fighting to win their division with 6 wins. And I think the first 1 to 8 wins the division. So that's another wild. Now, Tampa's playing bad. New Orleans, they're unlucky, but they played the Niners really well. Let's put it that way. So that's what we have there. In teaser trends, the Bears are a strong home dog if you can stomach Trevor Siemian. That's the play. Green Bay's terrible as a road favorite. The Bears are very strong as a home dog. So it's a beautiful, if all healthy, this would be a strong play on Chicago. The Jets are a strong dog against Minnie, and Minnie's Minnie's a decent home favorite, but the Jets are strong, especially this year. Um, the Cleveland, Houston, the plays Houston. Cleveland is not a good road favorite. Houston's okay as a home dog, nothing great. Philly, Tennessee. Actually, the trend is Philly 11-2 as a home favorite. There's really no trend on Tennessee, but I still like Tennessee in the 10.5. Detroit, Jacksonville. Play against Jacksonville as a road dog, 18-3. That's what you have here. Denver, Baltimore. The small play on Denver as a road dog, or bet against Baltimore as a home favorite. Either way, Denver has a little bit of a trend there. Seattle 8-2 as a road favorite to the Rams. San Diego, play against them as a road favorite, 10-1. Play against them overall and at teaser 38-6. So this is an Oakland play there. KC, Cincinnati. Cincinnati 9-2 as a home dog. And then New Orleans, Tampa, it's a double trend. Both teams are New Orleans good road dog. Tampa's a good home favorite, but you can bet against Tampa because they've been injured this year. Now, the reason I do the trends, again, this is one way I'm getting the expected outcome, not the end. There is no end all, be all. There's, do they need the game? Is this a playoff game? What is their teaser trend? So all this I'm calculating to make the pick. So when I'm looking at it, so does the team need, like Georgia, does Georgia need the game against LSU? No, but they probably want to be SEC champions because they weren't last year. So then it makes it okay. And that's basically what you have. So there's the need, but then the reality. Baltimore needs the game against Denver, but can they win the game against Denver? And that's where we're struggling this year, and that's where all the injuries and playing the third stringers are happening, is we're getting all these teams that should be a bet, but the reason they're bad is the injuries, and they're not – you can't bet on them to win. I can't trust Tampa to beat New Orleans. It's ridiculous. I got Tom Brady, Julio Jones, and Evans, and I can't trust Tampa to win. I mean, it's insane because the defense is terrible. That's the problem. You just have you need the defense, and there's too many injuries. It's too many hamstrings. It's too much. We don't play in preseason. I don't know where the fuck that's coming from. As all the coaches get fired because they don't play, and then they all lose because the guys are injured, and off you go. So that's really the problem. So that's and the reason I do the trends is because I want to see the new. Everything changes every year, right? So I want to pick up on it. Well, what have I picked up on? The best team to bet against is the Rams. Would you bet against them last year? No, but you bet against them this year. They're 10-0 against. So is New Orleans and Atlanta. I think are 9-1 against. Now Atlanta maybe, but you're picking that up. You're picking up bet against Denver, bet against San Diego. But on the other hand, all of a sudden these teams that are strong, Houston, the Jets, San Diego, Seattle, Miami, Tennessee, Atlanta, Philly, Cincinnati are all teams that are doing well this year and last year in a teaser. So the key teams there are the Jets, maybe San Diego, maybe Miami, where you're going, oh, I need to bet those teams. Those are the hot teams in a teaser. Those are the teams making me money. Those are teams 85, 90% in a teaser. So that's where I'm starting from. Well, I want a team that's, 90% they're covering. And again, I'm in teaser world. I'm looking at teasers. I'm not looking at the regular points. And that's where the fix comes in, right? You can win it's 7.5. You can win by 7, but we're down to 1.5. Okay, so we'll win the game by 3. Well, that's fine for us. That's how we push off the fix. And, let's not be naive. We all know there's some fixing going on. The ref with the pass interference and nobody can see it, or the holding call that he hasn't called all game and they call holding. So it's just, that's what we're dealing with. So I'll get in more into the pros tomorrow, do a little more research. I know pretty much what I want. We've checked the injuries again. We got to wait on Green Bay, Chicago. Fields is still questionable. He's got a hurt shoulder, but it's his left shoulder, not his right. We'll see. Now, if he rips something, he's not on IR. He's not out. Stafford's out, or he's doubtful. So that's what you have to see is the injuries with some of them. You got to wait till Saturday to see. Fields probably will tell us Saturday. McCaffrey, that's the Niner running back. He's questionable, but he'll probably play. That should be a hell of a game, Frisco, Miami. And then, San Diego, Oakland. So we're keeping there some good games. KC, Cincy, San Diego, Oakland, Seattle, LA, Miami, Frisco, Tennessee, Philly, the Jets, Mini, Washington, the Giants, and then tonight's game, Buffalo, New England. Very good games. We're getting a much better feel now because we're starting to see the preseason bullshit that didn't happen, that happens the first 2 or 3 weeks of the year. Is now everybody's played. They play the whole game. They're used to it. They're in shape. So it took us a while to get there, but we got there. So that's what we have. To take Buffalo tonight, plus the 2.5, I think. I went over college. We'll review it one more time. Toledo, Ohio, take Ohio. Georgia, LSU, go under. Fresno State, Boise, take Fresno. That's a free pick. Clemson, North Carolina, go over. North Texas, UTSA, go over. Utah, USC, go over. K-State, TCU, go over. Troy, Coastal Carolina, take Troy. Tulane, UCF, go over. And Michigan, Purdue, take Michigan. Two locks in that. In college, I could have a couple. I could see one lock in the pros, possibly 2. I can see 3 games right now that I feel pretty comfortable locking. We'll have to check the others, but you're looking for the right dog. Like Washington and the Giants. If the Giants are 3-point favorites, I can lock Washington, but they go and make Washington the favorite, and I don't like that. It's like, well, maybe I like the Giants then. It's games like that where you just give me the dog, give me the points over 7, and that's what it's about. So, do I trust Cleveland? I don't know. It's more risky, but maybe. How's the guy going to play the full game? Is he going to get hurt because he's not in shape? You can't run in shape. You got to play in shape. So, all these things we don't know. Miami, Frisco, how do we play that? And New Orleans, Tampa. I think I'm leaning towards New Orleans. The more I'm talking, the more I'm thinking, the more I'm feeling it. Anyway, that's it for college. We'll talk pros tomorrow. Any late breaking news? I'll cover the Friday games in college. If there's any change, we'll go through the line, and then if nothing changed, you've already got the picks. Should be a real exciting game, USC, Utah. Although USC, of all the teams in the Pac-10, are not the playoff team. UCLA and Utah are the playoff teams, as is Oregon. Those are probably the 3 best playoff teams. The fact Oregon lost to Oregon State doesn't mean Oregon's a bad team. Now, they did lose to Washington also, so maybe you go Oregon State, Washington there, but I think your best teams, UCLA and Utah, not USC. And USC got lucky to beat UCLA with a couple interceptions. But anyway, I just see there. I think Utah, they're both. I think here's my problem. The winner of the USC Utah game should be in the playoff, but it won't be. USC has to win to get in the play. Otherwise, we'll take Alabama with 2 losses are better than Utah, who just beat USC. That doesn't make any fucking sense. Who did Alabama beat to get there? Nobody, right? So that's the big question, is how a team not playing versus a team that played and won their conference champion. Like if Purdue wins, shouldn't Purdue be in the playoff if they beat Michigan? Shouldn't they? They just beat the number, 2, 3 team in the country. So if you just beat them, so your argument of you can't play in the playoff because you can't win goes out the window because they just won. So this is really a stupid weekend in my mind. TCU already beat K-State, and Utah already beat USC. So what's the point of these games? Michigan didn't play Purdue, but who cares? So basically, what is the point of this? Because TCU beat K-State. So if K-State wins, well, TCU won the first game. How do you differentiate? So it really makes no sense. This whole week makes no sense. It's just it's a money grab, but it doesn't, unless you're going to make these playoff games, it doesn't make any sense. And that's what this week should be should be playoff games. And it shouldn't be Michigan, Purdue. It should be Michigan, Ohio State, the top two. You do have it with K-State, TCU, and Utah, USC are the best two teams in those conferences. But this should be a playoff game. Winner moves on. There should be what, four? There should be 4 playoff games. So there's 8 teams. So you take your top 8. So Michigan really should be playing maybe TCU, and then maybe USC plays Fresno State, or Georgia plays somebody. That's the problem with this week. Why does USC have to beat Utah? Now, Utah beat them the first time. So why does Utah have to beat USC again? And then why does TCU have to beat Kansas State again? What's the point of it? It was like that when LSU went to Alabama years ago, about 10 years ago or 8 years ago, and they beat them, right? 6-3 or whatever. Alabama kept missing field goals. And so LSU won at Alabama, yet the championship was LSU, Alabama, and Alabama won the national title. I'm like, wait a minute. LSU won at Alabama. Alabama then beats them in a nothing game. Why is Alabama the national champion? LSU went to Alabama and won. It's just it's the stupidest thing. College football by far is the dumbest playoff system of anything. Now, college basketball, I argue, does not have a playoff system. They have a tournament, which is not a playoff. You don't have the best teams playing each other as you would in the NBA finals. That'd be like having, I don't know, I don't even the NBA anymore, but it'd be like having a shit team against the Golden State or something. But you don't see that. You see 2 good teams in the playoffs and in the championship games. And college does not have a playoff. A tournament is not a playoff. You win the tournament does not make you the national champ. It makes you the winner of the tournament. And this whole playoff here, this whole week is a joke. It's stupid. It's meaningless. It's a waste. And then your playoff is a joke too, because you already got, if you're going to have the season, your best 4 teams are Michigan because they beat Ohio State, TCU, they ran the table, USC lost 1, and Georgia. Those are your best 4 teams. But you have other teams, Baylor. Okay, Oak State got hurt. Texas, you got maybe Washington, you got Utah and UCLA that should be in this. Kansas State should be in the playoff. All these teams, Ohio State should be in. You tell me Ohio State's not one of the top? Although the way they looked against Michigan, they're not. But all those teams should be in the playoff. This is a joke that you only can choose 4. And then the excuse you use, it's like Powell with the inflation. Well, we're raising rates for the inflation. No, you're not. You're fucking everybody over. So you can go to a digital dollar, which we can't figure out how to use anyway. That's the whole point of this well, we only can get 4 teams that have a chance to win. That's not what a playoff is. That's the point of the playoff. You have 10 or 12 teams should be in it, and this should be the first week of the playoff. That's the point they're missing. Then you have a week Christmas, and then you have New Year's, the final, or something like that. But this is a wasted week. So TCU has to beat Kansas State to make the playoffs again. Michigan has to beat Purdue. You just beat Ohio State, you're in. I mean, there's no, what do you mean? They got to play Purdue now. Oh, it's so stupid. Anyway, no comments today. Okay. So that's it. That's college. Not much going on gold and silver wise. I did notice it spiked up a little, but again, it's derivatives. Who cares? I'm going to run to the coin store and see about what's going on. My barbecue friend wants gold, so I told him I'd call him if there was any gold that the guy had. The guy doesn't get any more in. It's all sold out. If that doesn't tell you something, I don't know what will. So I might buy 10 more ounces of silver or 20 more. I got like 370 ounces of silver now, so it's kind of like, do I need 10 more? But then when I look at it going, it's $25, $27 an ounce. I'm like, yeah, why not? I mean, what am I going to spend $270 on? That's a better value than buying silver. There's nothing. And I don't know how much I'm going to need, but I know I'm going to need. And I'm just kind of trying to figure out this whole what to do with this reset, as far as I don't want to hold fiat money, but maybe I do. I really want to know is what the grace period is. So if I have $10,000 in my safe in US dollars, are they just going to turn a switch and say the money's no good? Or are they going to say you've got 6 months to turn it in? And that's really what I want to know. I'm hoping I get a grace period. Then I can keep it in the safe from the bank. And then when it comes out and rolls out, then I can take the money over, which is, I think, what's going to happen, because you're going to piss off 350 million people by saying your money's no good. Or are they going to say, well, okay, you can change it in, go to the bank, and you can change it in for digital currency. And that's really, I can't imagine them just saying, no. I guess I got to look at what they did in these other, what did they do in Sri Lanka and Venezuela and countries that had, when they switched currencies, like Russia just switched. So did they, if you had rubles, did you change it in for the new one? And I think that I can't imagine them not allowing you to do that, because they really want to bring in the old currency and burn it and have the new currency. They want you to buy the new currency. So I really think that there'd be a grace period. But again, I'll have to dig that up and I'll get back to you on that. Anyway, that's today. Any other questions or comments? Let me know. So next weekend we'll start looking at the bowls. There'll be Army, Navy, and we got the pros. So again, much better at the pros. Last week was like 9-1, hit 4 locks. Definitely feeling a lot more comfortable playing a lock in the pros and figuring them out. So again, www.teaserking.com. Get the locks, get the picks, and off we go. I'll be doing a bowl special, like $100 for all the bowl games. Last year I was 18-2 with eight locks that all won. 8-0 on the locks. There's a video I did last year on the bowls, which you can see on my channel to see if I am letting you know. And then you can see my picks if you go into my history of the bowls last year. But it was great. It was like all the locks won. And even if I was down, they were all winning. It was just beautiful. So we will see here. But I got a good 6-7 good pro games, and I've given you the college. It's just which ones am I going, and then which are the locks, and what are the units. So that's out there. Anyway, have a great day. www.teaserking.com. You want to email me, please. You'll find the email on the homepage, and please email me if you haven't. So I got to do some 10-teamers. I don't have 10 college to give, so I got to give some pros, which I really just started looking at. So I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I do have 10 college I can maybe give. Okay, everybody. Have a great day. Thank you. I hope you enjoyed the class. Professor signing off. Take care, everybody. See you tomorrow.